Okay, my name is John Lamston. I'm the chair of the Village Trustees here in North Bennington, and this is our regular monthly meeting for business. And I'll call the meeting to order at this time. It is August 10th at 7:06 p.m. and that's 2021. And we are glad to be a hybrid meeting today. So we are meeting in person here at the village offices at the train depot in North Bennington, but we are also carrying this on Zoom, and Cat TV is helping us be live on Facebook and community access. So thank you very much, Cat TV, as usual. And the first order of business that we usually take care of is just approving our minutes and paying our bills, and then we'll get right into public comment. So did the trustees who are present here tonight, I noticed that we do have a quorum. We have Tara Lowry on Zoom, as well as Mark Boudreau here and on Zoom as well. And that is a quorum, 3 of our 5 trustees. I expect Matthew Patterson to join us at some point, but we know that the 5th trustee, Aaron McKinney, can't be with us tonight. So Mark and Tara, did you have an opportunity to review the minutes for tonight? Is there any questions or additions or changes to those?
Not for me.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion.
I'll second.
And seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Tara is indicating aye to me.
Aye.
Okay. And that motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. And Lori, just to confirm, you can hear and see the proceedings, so you're able to take minutes just fine? Okay. Thank you. So that's motion carries, and the warrants for tonight were an email from Treasurer Mary Rogers at 9:29 this morning. All 6 of those attachments. The payroll for August 2021 is in the amount of $7,243.77. Any questions on that one?
Share those.
I can share this screen, sure.
Thanks. No questions on the payroll. I'll make a motion to approve. Thank you.
Sure. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay.
With these, I can.
Okay, the motion's been made to approve. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the payroll warrant? And this is just the payment for the village employees for the month. There is no discussion. And all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. And the second warrant that we need to approve is the paying of the bills, which is dated August 10th, 2021. And it's in the total amount of $55,905.06. Which includes a couple of
It includes a
larger.
couple that were after the last meeting.
Right. And I should be still sharing my screen here. The BGS Fed surplus, Mary,
No,
I can go to the detail.
it was the 18,400. There's
Yes.
3 different things
Is that-
included in there. I
That's-
believe.
Yeah, that's the excavator. They sent us a whole bunch of
Okay.
bills, and a few of them were
Federal surplus.
incorrect,
Right.
restricted and all, but the big part of that was the shipment of that excavator.
Okay. So shipping of a full-size excavator and just our regular bills to the regional commission, I believe that's an annual, the $5,000 is what we pay annual. And our $10,000 payment to McCullough Library, Parent Recreations at $3,000. We had concrete work done. This is the post office concrete work at 33,500.
Yes.
3,000, not 33.
3,500.
Yes,
Yep.
for Tetro.
And Green Mountain Power at 2,063. Was that some
That's a
tree stuff?
combination
or-
of all the bills.
Okay, for 1 month though,
Yes.
or did that
Yes.
carry over
No,
from the June too?
that's 1 month. The biggest part is always the street lights.
Okay.
But it's all 7 or 8 accounts.
Okay. All right.
And I just had one question. Is the Lavender Acres, is that for the park? Is that for Welling?
Yeah, no,
No?
that was, week ago. So no name line.
Yeah, I couldn't find that one.
I can't see any reason why we would pay the Commonwealth of Massachusetts $9.40. So we'll have to eliminate that one.
No, it's cold.
Okay, fine.
It's cold.
Fine.
It's cold.
All right.
Trust me, I would shit swivel, swap our total out.
Okay, so the total amount is $55,905.06. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Is there a second? All those in favor, or sorry, is there any further discussion? I think we might have done this already. Sorry. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries. Any unusual bills that need to be approved, Mary, or is that it for you?
No, there's
Okay.
nothing unusual.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to our public comment section. And so tonight we have some comment, which is excellent. Glad to see people here and oh, I will stop sharing my screen. You don't need to see all that stuff. So we operate a little less formally than Bennington does, but just whoever, maybe if somebody has another appointment to get to or something, we'll take you on first. But I would ask, since there are several people here, to try at least initially to limit the comments to, 3 to 5 minutes or so. And then if we do get through everybody and you have more to add, we can come back to you at that point. But Jenny, you want to lead us off, or? Okay, great. Excellent.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does Lori need to have
Sorry.
a list of who's here?
Oh, that would be great. Yes. I should have taken that list, but maybe we can pass something around. Could you grab paper and
There's extra
There's-
pens here, but I don't have plenty of pens here, but I don't have paper.
so if at some point before you go, if you could just write your name down so that we could have it for the record that you were here.
John, can you turn your camera to the person that's speaking when the citizens are speaking so we can all see it? Plus it'll be on Cat TV.
Absolutely, I sure can. Or Mark, would you be able to do that? That way we could have both going.
John, a question for you.
Yes.
Will we on the regular agenda or are we speaking as part of the citizens' comment? Okay, so I guess. I'm gonna position it so I can sort of stand here. I'm
Great.
gonna ask Mary Morrissey to join me here. My name is Jonas Spivak, and I'm here with Mary Morrissey. And first of all, I want to thank you for allowing us.
Recording in progress.
Oh, sorry, that was
No,
my
that's
own
good.
personal one. That way
Let
we
me
got
just
it
hit
on.
continue on your device here, Mark. Thank you for giving us a few moments of your time, and I don't want to impinge too much on everyone else who is waiting for their turn. But our purpose in coming here is twofold. Number one is to thank the village of North Bennington and the trustees, and also NOR and the town highway department for the support of the Breckenridge standoff event, which occurred in North Bennington past July 18th. And if you took a time machine back to July 18th, it was a very threatening day with thunderclouds and potential rain. Happily, the rain stopped shortly before the event and stayed away throughout the entirety of the day. The day was really twofold. It was celebrating both the birth of Vermont, ostensibly, and also the birth of the Green Mountain Boys and our modern version, our Green Mountain National Guard. It was I would describe it as quite a success despite the threatening weather. We had well over 200 people in attendance for the event, along with many living historian reenactors. The event was our ceremony honoring the National Guard and also presenting a resolution from the state of Vermont. I'd like to ask Mary to speak to that.
Well, it certainly was a very special day. Gentlemen did a great deal of work with the Historical Society to make this a real event, which kicks off what it will be for the next number of years, the 250th anniversaries of many different things throughout this region. So this was a very wonderful start, and pleased that it was in North Bennington and our region. And again, thank you all for working to help this happen.
Well, thank you very much for putting this together, Jonah, and thank you for as well. I was able to stop by for a little bit on the day, and it was just so cool to see the event and see the reenactors and if I'm using the right terminology, but at the actual location. That was what was so neat to me, and obviously we live in a place that's very historic, but when you see it happening in that way, it just brings it to life. And my kids, felt like it was a time machine there. So it was really a cool event. I'm glad there was a good turnout, glad the weather held off. And I hope that we were able to support it sufficiently, and we would look forward to doing that in the future. Whether it's more events to come as part of the 250 or annual things or whatever the case may be.
We absolutely will do it again at the 500th anniversary. So stay tuned for that. I also do want to give a shout out also to Bob Hoare, who was the originator of the idea of pointing out the importance of this event, not just here, but to state if you don't know the story, this was the decisive armed confrontation between the New York posse, the authorities from colonial New York, and the settlers of what would become Vermont. So Highland Hall, who was of course the designer of our Bennington Battle Monument, was the one who called this the birthplace of Vermont. And it's actually one of those monuments that you see down along River Road speaks to that event outside of the Breckenridge Homestead site. So in addition to our thanks, and you were extremely supportive, we're very grateful for everything you did, including the payment of the porta potties. So thank you for that. We really appreciate that. But I believe that Mary also has something that we want to present.
Well, we wanted to present the copy of the actual proclamation, which will be a part of the state of Vermont's history. It will be in the archives. North Bennington is highlighted in it.
Great.
So I don't know, do you want it read, or time-wise probably not tonight? It's not that long, but it is a document.
Could we at least show it to the camera?
Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think we'll go ahead and enter it into the record tonight.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for that. And we will make sure and keep that secure.
Thank you again for your support, and we really appreciate it. And there are more, as Mary said, more 250th events to come, culminating, of course, in 2027 with the 250th anniversary of the founding of Vermont and the Battle.
And if anyone has any ideas, Jonah is on the 250th state commission that has just been organized.
Great.
So this is the man to see.
Great. And we hope you consider North Bennington. Right? I mean, these are the reasons why we live in the community. So we'd love to have whatever you guys
Thank you so much.
So when the next speaker that we have, let's put your mic on and your mom. Do we have another citizen comment?
Do you want us to be citizens?
Yeah, if that works for you, that would be great. Yeah, let's go ahead with that now.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you would, you could sit.
Feel free to adjust that. I can't see it, so adjust it in any way you need to, please.
And Joe's got. So thank you very much for allowing us to come before you tonight. We're really appreciative of the opportunity to be here. I know you were standing on the bridge, as was Norm, right after all of this happened, and expressing as much concern as we were at the time. All three of us are new, all four of us are new owners. I mean, we rented for a year, but we closed in April and you guys closed in June, right? And we formed the Owners Association June 30th. I don't know what day the wall came down, but it was very shortly thereafter. I think you probably all know Art Carlucci, and he is spearheading this for us because obviously we don't know anything about any of this, but he's doing a really nice job. And I guess I wanted to say to you that we looked at, to give you a little bit of history, we looked at three options for replacing the wall. The first one was drywall, which was what it was. And we pretty quickly decided that we didn't really want to go with drywall. So the second option was something called Ready Rock, which I describe it as Lego blocks. They're massive, big stones with big bumps on the top and they interlock together. And the third was concrete. And we decided to go with the concrete. And we also decided it's actually more than a third. I was thinking it was a third of the wall that was still standing, but it's actually more than a third when I looked at it today. But we decided to take the whole wall down, so it will be, the whole thing will be the same. And we decided to go with concrete all the way to the edge of the building, from the bridge, the edge of the bridge to the edge of the building. And we're interested in making it as attractive as I'm sure the town is interested in making it attractive. So stamped concrete is where we are right now. And I wanted to give you a picture of what the stamped concrete looks like. One more so you don't hear. So this is stamped concrete. Art tells me the joints are about 1 inch deep, and the width of the joints is anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. The shadowing is a water-based stain, so it looks like rock. I think it's pretty good, and it will certainly add texture, something much different than what plain concrete would be. So construction is slated to begin around the 23rd of the month and to take about 2 weeks. And Joe has to move out because they won't be able to get into their condo when construction starts. But Art estimates it'll be about 2 weeks. So we understand there's been some conversation with the trustees here about the possibility of the village of North Bennington paying the cost for the stamped concrete, which is $6,250. So we're here to thank you for your interest and to ask that you consider that, because we think the pattern will be much more interesting and much more attractive than just plain concrete. Questions?
And Norm Reynolds said that's the same thing we have on the retaining wall on Water Street.
That's how that will lay out.
Not exactly, but that's the same idea.
Right, when we first started talking about our stone wall, to meeting with it, and got the record association. Crossway, you know, it's a little lot of money. Everything else, is important. Shoot us out. Let's see what it is. I think they'll assist that homeowner association with that. If we really spruce up that. And as you remember, when we built the bridge, Mr. Carucci, that whole place at the time, paid a lot of money to get the railing to make our project look really nice. So in turn, we're a very, very small percentage of the project. And we get to perform when it's done.
questions for any of us?
I don't have any questions. We put this out this week, this is coming, so I believe, and I know it's timely, we have to make a decision tonight. So I think we're gonna discuss it tonight and make that decision tonight.
Okay.
But the general just on that. So we will be discussing and.
So we'll head on out then.
Well, it's not, that's fine. Are there questions from other board members for our Matthew?
Is there, we can go ahead. I think I'm loud enough so that I can be heard, but would the board like to make a motion at this time, or would there like to be further discussion on this?
I'm happy to put it to vote right now. I mean, I think we've shared some feelings out there. I mean, I'm certainly personally in favor.
I think we had put it on the agenda. We kind of knew ahead of time what the proposal was, and I think this would not be an unusual situation where the village can contribute to private property as it suits the village need, as in terms of aesthetics and making sure that we're in keeping with the village plan, especially in a downtown area. So, matching that bridge, I think, is important for us in maintaining the aesthetics in that area. So I see no issue with a motion to approve that cost. And I think that the estimate that was given in terms of 6,000, I think we could approve the cost of facing that wall as opposed to the set amount. But if it was to far exceed $6,000, that we'd want to come back and talk again. But
And I do have one.
I wouldn't want to limit us, because if it was 6,050, then the motion was to only do 6,000 on that.
Okay, the number I put out was the number Art gave me was 6,250, but I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So 6,250.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the number Art gave me.
I think the only question I would have is for you, so by becoming part of this project, do we assume any liability moving forward or any?
No, we would want to, the agreement that the village would want to make plain through essentially a waiver would be that by paying for this aesthetic addition to the project, we're not assuming any liability for the retaining wall,
Or responsibility?
which is probably we have a lot of other stuff in the village that's going to fall down before that. Now that it's being done right, so.
I think that's what we're gonna need to use.
Right, pretty good.
So if we're clear with that, I'd be happy to make the motion to approve moving forward and having the village cover the cost of the form.
I'll second that.
Matthew Patterson is seconded, and any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And that motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for coming by in
Pleasure to be
person.
part of North Bennington, too.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a better welcome than the one you got. In your driveway almost fell through. Oh yeah, can we trouble you guys to please sign this before? Oh, okay. Pleasure.
But Art, would you like to have a seat up here?
Good evening. I'm Ira Whitman. I'm a resident of Shasberry, but I'm a business owner in North Bennington here. And I'm also the chair of the Shasberry Select Board. As you've heard, or everybody seems to know, that there's been a ongoing dispute between North Bennington and Shasberry over the what we're being charged for water. We're buying water from the North Bennington system. And for several years, going back over 2 years, we couldn't get a dialogue going or anything with the former chair of the water board. Since Dave Shaughnessy has taken over, I've been able to at least get somewhat of a dialogue going, and I've been talking to him several times. And I got a kind of like a verbal commitment that we would have a meeting as soon as they decided on hiring a different lawyer than what they previously had. And so we just received a letter from them saying that they are not going to enter in any kind of mitigation with us, any kind of a dialogue. In fact, their lawyer is starting to draw up a petition to take us to court. This petition they will share with us before they do send it. And it's just very frustrating that they will not enter any kind of mediation, arbitration, or anything. They seem to want to go right to court. And I hope everybody realizes what this expense would be. We're talking $10,000 to $20,000 to start with. I don't. Certainly the taxpayers or water users of Shasberry, which are only about 300 or so, this is going to be a huge expense. And citizens of North Bennington also, there's more of them, but this is going to be a huge expense, and we just can't understand why we can't sit down and start talking this. So I'm not on the agenda. I'm just making a public comment. If you want to discuss it, I'm glad to discuss, but I don't expect any discussion because I was not on the agenda.
I think I can respond just at least by saying I appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate the open and frank dialogue that you've had over the past 2 years. I know that it's been a long time. And, you know, I think that I feel that your approach is very neighborly in terms of that you continue to come and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So a couple of points. One is, and I guess I'll speak as the chair of the trustee and not as the board as a whole or as an attorney, you know, but just as a trustee. In looking at the charter and being familiar with the charter, I think that how it's written, the water board has authority to manage the water department without the board of trustees getting into what they're supposed to and supposed to not do. You know, I think we have to be the backstop or the liability for bonds, for instance. You know, we have to approve the one in question here. We have to be the ultimate responsibility for a bond, but I don't think that we, you know, if they, for instance, determine to mediate or not mediate, I'm not sure that the trustees, according to the charter, have any authority to tell them that they should or shouldn't do that. And I think we don't have that authority. Although, again, I'm speaking for myself as a trustee as opposed to the board. We haven't discussed this and come to that conclusion. I'm just speaking. But I will say that in reviewing the documents that you mentioned, that drafting, I think, similarly to the way that Shasberry presented arguments through an attorney's letter to the board, sharing a draft complaint lays out positions as opposed to if it had been filed in court, said, we'll see you in court. You know what I mean? I think those are two different things. And I think that, you know, I hope that we will continue through, we've delegated the authority of management of the water to the water board. And I hope that they will continue to reach an agreement if an agreement is possible, because an agreement is going to be better for Shasberry and North Bennington than court. There's no question of that. If an agreement can be reached, but if two sides present positions that are incompatible or just fundamentally can't go together, then it, you know, you can't mediate your way out of that.
Trouble is, we haven't even tried that.
But you should try. Yeah, well, I totally agree with you that you should at least try. But you'd also, you know, in some ways, you don't waste your time trying when there's no point in trying. But at the same time, I don't think that that's the case. I think the situation we have there, you know, is potentially some sort of way to a solution. So I hope that's the way that it's going, and I hope that the water board feels that they're sharing that complaint with you was a position statement as opposed to a threat of some kind. I really don't think that that's the case. So at any point, mediation or discussion can be had and can hopefully push this forward, because in discussing this with the chairman, Dave Shaughnessy, I think one thing that I can share is that I feel like whether you live over the line in Shasberry or whether you live in North Bennington, you're paying taxes there, you're paying taxes here, you're going to businesses there, you're going to businesses here, you have family that lives there, you have family that lives here. It's not really like we're different people, you know, we're all part of the same community. So I hope that's the way we can look at it and say,
That's what we want too. But, it doesn't look like it's heading in the right direction. It does say that they will share it before they present it. So hopefully there'll be some thing. I just.
Yeah, no, I share the same views as that. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to be gained through communication than there is through the courts, because I think we all lose in court. And as long as both parties enter with the idea that they're not going to get everything and we can have a civil conversation about it, obviously that I would be all for that.
well, but I mean, if you go to mediation and both sides negotiate the mediation in good faith and they just say, we can't agree, then there are some situations where a court does have to resolve certain issues, but hopefully you can at least narrow it down to get to certain discrete issues that there couldn't be resolute. But I think what I've often seen is that you go in there thinking, well, we're never going to get this to happen. And then you sit down and you start talking and it gets narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And then you realize, well, is it really worth fighting over that one little thing that we can't agree? And then you can push it over the goal line.
Right.
So
That's what we're hoping. Okay.
thank you, Art.
Well, thank you.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you.
I want to go back to our agenda just to make sure. I know.
All right, let me.
Okay, I'm back on the mic. Mary, would you like to make a treasurer's report of what's been discussed already?
I had a couple of comments, but because Norm probably has worked all day.
Oh,
if he
yes.
would like to
Let's
go
switch
first,
that.
I would happily.
Absolutely.
switch places.
Yep. Let's have a report from Highway
We
first.
can't have him falling asleep here.
So. Share.
Whoops.
So, really not a whole lot to report this month. Again, we're doing our park maintenance. We put in a new sidewalk in front of the post office that just got paved today, so pretty much besides picking up a couple cones, resetting the outgoing mailbox, which I actually think is gonna stay right where it is, because that's what the postmaster likes it. That project is completed. Next week, we start on our EV charging system here at the train station.
Thank you.
Tuesday.
You mentioned. Yes, thank you.
So hopefully everybody that has an electric car, you'll have a shot at charging it here. It's gonna be high,
Right.
you know, let a little power go around for everyone. And that's pretty much it.
So we're gonna call them off the prior day. We should probably just alert the neighbors that do park there and let them know that. and
Yes.
put cones up so they'll.
Yeah, right, I mean, we'll be able to do
There's only a
what
couple.
we have to do from the other side, but yeah, that's a good idea. Get it blocked off early, take some of the barrels that we have over here, just start securing it. The only other big project that we have is the back of the firehouse. Parking lot, we'll be putting up a sign pretty shortly on the 23rd. We have a contractor coming in to rip up the blacktop, which is all grindings, big roto wheel. So we have to get people that have to be out. I mean, that parking lot's gotta be empty.
Yeah, so remember we've got, I'm sorry to interrupt that, just because they were just here, that's where all these folks have been parking because they lost their parking lot, so we're gonna have to just. either
Well, they can park in the street. I mean, there's plenty of other places to park, but that parking lot has to be empty.
Yep.
You know, anybody who's trying to do anything anywhere, is, you know how hard it is to get a contractor right now. So, you know, we've narrowed it down to a date. We'll, have 2 pending bids for the blacktop. When I get them, we'll open them up. And then that parking lot will be cleaned up, be a lot better for the water quality, with the sand and everything else. So our other project that we have going on is the train station. I don't know if anybody's been sitting or came by today, but they pressure washed one corner of the roof.
One quick question. So all you're saying is the contractor's just gonna come that one day to rip it up.
That's correct.
Whole different thing to actually pave it, which might not happen until next year.
No, it'll happen this year, but it won't be for a week or 2 or maybe a month.
You'll have another day.
Right, so
for it.
once they get out the morning of the 23rd, they should be able to park there the evening of the
Great.
23rd.
Thank you.
And even with blacktop, you know, if we're into September-ish, the very first part of October, it'll cool off so fast. If it was a day like today, we would want to keep them out of there 24 hours, you know, because the blacktop just needs time to really cool. But it shouldn't be a humongous inconvenience. Any more questions?
Thank you very much.
You know, if we can get paint, we'll stripe it. Obviously, since the last time I've been here, we saw our new crosswalk markers. Does anybody use them in front of the library?
I have,
You push a button and
my
they light
kids
up.
have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the kids. You know, they're timed out in a minute, seems long enough. I mean, 2's real long. So we have those. We'll go back, circle around to the train depot. Actually roofing, we've done all the roofing work on this building. It's got 2 products. They did a couple test samples at their shed lab, at their office. Came this morning, they pressure washed that back corner of the roof where all the rot is, and they're actually going to try a test sample. And that overhang, so we don't have a rot, and then we'll have to get back into a painter.
Great.
Probably really gear that up for next year. Talking about next year, we've had to fight with the beavers again today. Our movers came today to assist them in evacuating. We've had to clean a big mess out of the culvert. But we've got a bid, and I emailed it to everybody this morning, and it is probably the easiest and cheapest way is to actually put a squash pipe metal culvert in. Now, if you've been through in the board for quite some time, when they do a hydraulic study, they do it to the 100-year storm. So that pipe is probably 4 foot, maybe diameter at one time. The new one is 14. It's 9 feet high, so you actually be able to walk through it if you wanted to. So that is about $80,000 for the culvert itself. We were talking with John today, there's a lot of preliminary work that we can do. We're gonna task the village attorney just to make sure we have easements on both sides. And hopefully the neighbors are all good with that. Everybody seems to be understanding what's going on. We will schedule a time, it has to be in low water. So it should be like after July. And hopefully we'll be able to do it. We have that grant to assist us with that.
So your in-kind work can be part of the matching.
My in-kind work will be part of the matching. So a lot of clearing that we do ourselves, one corner today, one corner next month. As John said, in winter time, if we have a winter like we did 6 years ago, there was no snow, we cleared it all.
So you could start that
Today,
if you wanted to.
yeah, just keep, as long as we keep track. We'll meet with Chris to make sure that everything is, there's gonna have to be a diversion pipe put in, so there's gonna be a culvert that we're gonna have to buy, and that's not part of that $80,000. Probably like a 3-foot pipe that we're gonna have to put in to let water go around this when they work, or we work, or whoever works. You know what I mean? And that can be done in day closures and get all that stuff done. So that's, other than that, that's pretty much it. Winter's coming. Anybody doesn't think it is, doesn't seem like it today, but it is surely on its way. As we all remember as being a kid, after battle day, it's all downhill.
Do you think that you'll, and there's no comment one way or the other on this, but is Bank Street thinking like that may happen or may not happen?
We're working on it. We got a crusher coming into our boneyard, hopefully next week. I had conversations with the vendor, and they're gonna re-crush those millings because it's a big rock right now. Again, in kind, and we're gonna give them half those millings. That's what the trade-off is. And hopefully we can start pulling that out and then laying that down.
Okay. As part of that, I don't know if this is routine or not, but could we make sure that we leave a note for the homeowners along that sidewalk?
We can do that ahead of time before we start, because in case there's a problem. Now, we certainly, as a board, I hope will understand, we're not digging it out. We're picking up the marble and we're gonna square it up as best we can, and we're gonna put millings down. This is a very cheap Band-Aid for hopefully a 1-year thing, and then go with on that side of the street, it would really be, it should be a concrete sidewalk.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
the goal, and I'd like, to be from where, because we just did new sidewalk in front of the church there, and
that's correct.
what, from
School Street
all the way.
Church Street.
Well, I'd like to go to
Homestead Muse.
Homestead Muse where they.
That would be really good, because Homestead Muse side is worse than even the Bank Street side.
Is there a marble from all the way to Homestead Muse?
No, there is not.
That's just, it used to be.
That's a very old blacktop side.
Okay.
But they have a 6-foot sidewalk that goes right to the road, because obviously they need it. And I think it's important as a downtown to have access to all of our citizens. So I think I'd really like to have that be part of the project, that the project be that length as opposed to just to church, but again, I'm one member of the board, but I think that when in budgeting for that, I think we should look at that project as opposed to just the school.
And
church.
it could be a 2-year.
Yeah, oh,
It could
yeah.
be a Phase 1,
Right.
phase 2, but I agree that obviously there's quite a few.
No,
houses out there
there's
that
no,
make sense.
there's no real curbing on that. You're certainly correct. Call it 2 year. This year's phase 1, get rid of all the marble, getting it pulled up. Next year would be phase 2, putting it down. And it's really, once you go through that one section, it's not like we have to curb because it has a pretty good grass shoulder on both sides. So it's really just boxing it out, forming it and pouring it.
Sure, well, all of it would be based on just price anyway. If the price works, we'll do it in one, we'll do it all. Oh, sure.
Great. And we can look at options there too, as far as payment goes. All right, any questions for Norm?
I was gonna bring something, a new business, but I want Norm to be here and I don't want him to have to stay. So
Sure.
do you mind if I skip ahead and just
Yeah.
bring something up? We are obviously, I put a lot of time into trying to get us to put all this money aside for parks, and it's just sitting there right now. Would love to see if we can move forward with Wellingfield and get that to be we've got $30,000 in that park and rec with no other real big projects in mind. Would love to at least start investigating what it would take to get that to be one continuous level field. As it sits now, basically baseball is the only regulation we have. There's not room for any other sport to put in a regulation field because of the hill. We bought that piece of equipment that could take care of it. So obviously it would be a conversation as to whether we.
So how much more time do we have though? I mean,
This
are we
doesn't have to
getting
be
rid
this
of,
year.
are we only getting rid of one bulldozer or are we getting rid of both?
No, we're getting rid of one.
One. Oh, okay.
One's out, one's in.
Okay, all right.
And I just want to this was more of a, give Norm a heads up. I'd love to meet with him and pick his brain on what it might take to do it ourselves. And then I'll also research what it might take to hire it out. And if Norm tells me that he thinks we can handle it inside and what it would cost, we'll go that route. If he says it's not likely within the next couple of years, then I'll start looking around to see.
It'd be a good avenue with and he would kill me because we're good friends and throw one of the wasp. I would bring Mark Sawyer into this conversation, and he actually has a fellow that works for him part-time and has actually helps me out on his days off sometimes when we get behind on Park Street. Joe Becker, the grades, and they're the ones that did the field behind the Grace Christian field, Ramona and Morrison's.
Sure.
And and to bring them into it, because really what we probably would end up doing is bring in a big roto tiller and till that field all up and then regrade it, roll it, and shape it, and then plant it. And they've been through that project. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah,
They would certainly.
that was a big lengthy project. I do remember.
This was.
Yep.
And we're looking at the same thing, so, certainly the pros and cons, you know what I mean? Jim, boy, I wish we did this, I'm glad we did this, or maybe. But I would certainly involve them in your conversations.
All right, I'll tell you what, I'll make it a point to come down and you can tell me when we can talk and you can shoot me any names you can give me. I'll talk to anybody.
I'll give me before school starts.
Sounds good.
Up there.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we can talk further at new business, just to see what obviously this is just my idea right now, so I'd love to hear everyone else's opinion. But we can talk about that without just giving a heads up. Thank you.
Not to get sidetracked on that note, but I'm curious about making sure that, I think we do a really good job here of trying to anticipate costs going forward. And, I'm just continually thankful when I'm seeing the kids using the skate park that for the committee and the people that put that money together and got that there. And I know that that's not going to last forever either without routine maintenance. And I don't know is that something that we could, is there some sort of person that could inspect that to make
Oh, yeah, there's the company that's
recommendations? as
still-
to-
Yeah, there's the company that put it, that American Ramp Company. who
Okay,
I still get, because I was on that committee.
yeah,
This paper, so I still get emails from them. So they're, yeah, I mean, they would send somebody over to,
seems like that might, at this stage, I mean, it's been 15 years, right? At this point?
roughly, I would, yeah,
Less. Because we built.
give or take.
And it wasn't.
It was when you were here,
First 2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
so not quite.
no, we built it around 2010.
Years you.
And again,
Expected to
yes,
see.
like I said, this is just something I'm thinking of, so we can, I'm certainly open to everybody's opinions.
Which I don't think it's like we need a new one. I just think there's
Right.
little areas that need little adjustment so that, and also for
Yeah.
liability, I'm sure too. So,
Can't hurt to get an
Yeah.
estimate on that, sure.
great, thanks. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, folks on Zoom. Any questions for Norm before we let him adjourn? Okay, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay, but you're welcome to go too. Okay. Treasurer's report, please. And go, why don't you, I'm gonna mute, and then if you could unmute on your.
Okay. Can you hear? Because he turned my speaker off and I don't know. Okay, good. Okay. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about. I did send the trustees some additional reports, mostly for your information. The most important one is preliminary. There's only one or two other things I want to look at with where we are going to end up with the prior fiscal year. That's really important because we will soon be having to set our new municipal tax rates. The town of Bennington is working on their segment first. We need to wait for them to do their piece so we can get the grand list, and that's what we use. And then I believe maybe around August 20th, they're hoping to have that done. So we will, just so you know, we'll have to have another meeting before September, because I doubt we'll have, well, we won't have information. September will be too late by the time we do our September meeting. And we usually do this. Lori can chime in here in a minute to see whether we just continue this meeting or whether we call something else. Just quickly though, where all departments are pretty much spot on what the budget was, with the exception of highway. Highway has significant funds left over because projects, specifically road projects, were not done. And there was additional funds, highway funds that came from the state. So we're in a good position there. And I know you were talking about the sidewalks with Norm and some other things. So I think the trustees have an option of looking at specific projects to do in the very next couple of months. And we'll earmark them to use these carryover funds. And then we'll adjust that when it comes to the new tax rates. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have the first 50% of the state and local ARPA funds that we received yesterday. This portion is what the federal government sent to the states, and then the state allocated that to every municipality by population. There's another bucket of money that the state has. I haven't seen information yet as to how that's going to come out. The important piece is the one that we already have. And there are some significant guidelines on how that can be used. And I know John has, pardon me, has mentioned it before, but there will be public meetings in terms of how this can be used. We do not need to decide as a community how to do that, how to use this in the next coming weeks or months. But it's important to know that there's enough funding that perhaps if the public so chose, we could look at some of the smaller projects that would be eligible. Anything to do with broadband, education, health and safety, or water quality are almost gimmies. And we can support other nonprofits within our community, such as the library, or anything like that, that already are part of the community and part of the infrastructure with, especially with regards to things like broadband and, helping children learn and all those other things. So
Was housing one of the ones as well?
I believe, that yes. So there's quite a number of things that I think as a group, the trustees could talk about some rough ideas and then set up some public meetings to take chunks out of this and do perhaps smaller projects as need arises. And we don't have to wait. There's 4 years before we have to use all this, but there's no reason to sit on it all.
Right.
If there is good use that our residents can benefit from right away.
So are there requirements for public meeting? Or did you say there's not?
There are requirements, yes. And I would leave that to the trustees to clearly to do. But I'm already kind of have a little list going on the side of things that, to my mind, might be nice projects. And as the VLCT continues its information and its webinars, I keep attending those, and they've been very helpful in terms of helping wade through the guidance. So exciting stuff, I think.
I think at least for our, I'm trying to speak wildly, so we'll come to your
Okay.
mic, but I think at least for our initial meeting, our public meeting, that we try and keep things as broad as possible and open as possible and have it sooner rather than later, because we want to brainstorm ideas here and not be limited in our thinking in terms of what to spend the money on.
Yeah.
But given that, we've just seen the federal budget that, was I can't remember, 6.5 trillion cut down to 550 billion or something like that. So, and significant areas that were zero funded in that budget. So we know there's not going to be money coming there, and yet areas of that budget like water were funded. So I want to make sure that, if we come up with a great water project or something, well, let's make sure that we're not going to be receiving other federal funding for that, because then we can
Exactly.
maximize the use of this fund.
And the other bucket of state funds
Right.
that's yet to be allocated, that could be in there. But at the very least, we can help our residents understand what some of the parameters are.
Right.
Because as you know, reading through all that kind of stuff kind of makes your eyes go crossed.
But we, Jenny and Dana and I were at the Fund for North Bennington meeting last week, and they're just in a short 1 hour session with just, maybe 20 people. There were some great ideas being put out there. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to hearing from residents and non-residents too about what we can do in North Bennington. And I think there's just the potential for some really great thought to come out of this. And not just for that, but when you tend to get ideas generated, they don't necessarily have to be funded by this. You could find other places that a good idea is a good idea, regardless of. anything other? So and I think we will probably continue this meeting to a date
Okay.
certain.
I think that's what we usually do,
Back to
Mary.
that.
When you say a date certain, do I have to tell you what that date is, or you just mean at
Well,
some
we
point?
need to announce a date and time tonight in order to continue the meeting. If we don't, that's fine, but we just have to warn a new special meeting. Tara and Matthew and Lori, can you still hear me?
Yeah,
We
I
could
can.
do, if Tuesdays work, we could do Tuesday, August 24th. Or Monday, the 23rd.
Any trustee know that they have a conflict with the Tuesday, the 24th?
I think I'm fine for that one.
I'm more than fine with that.
Okay. Well, let's do that at the end of the meeting, just so we're clear, but it sounds like Tuesday, the 24th at 7 will be the continuation of the. But we'll do that officially at the end.
John, there's also going to be a second fund meeting, like you went to the first one.
Sorry. Next item of business is
Hold on, everyone's muted suddenly.
Can't hear you. Matt, you and I are the only
You
ones
did.
not muted.
There you
Sorry
go.
about that. The Development Review Board, Chris Damon has given us his resignation. We want to thank him for his service to the village and also thank him for giving us a little bit of time to find a replacement. So he's not going to officially step down until October. So we have a little bit of time to find a replacement there. And we would ask that anybody who is interested in the zoning administrator role, which is a paid position, so documents was the permitting fees, and I would say there was roughly
About $2,000.
25 to 30 applications for a permit in a year. So, and as the zoning administrator, you would be in charge of receiving the application, reviewing it, possibly going to the site, and probably going to the site, depending on what it is. If it's something's being done out, doors or whatever, you probably want to visit the site and approving those permits as long as they're in keeping with the bylaws and the plan, the village plan. So if anybody has interest in that position, please let us know. And that's open to any resident. It actually is, I don't know if it's limited by statute to residents, but we would encourage folks to step forward if they feel like that's a role that they would like to participate in. That's what I have for development review. Of course, if you're interested in planning or development or zoning or anything like that, I would send an email to our clerk, Lori Elwell, and we could let you know if a meeting is being planned, because the Development Review Board and the Planning Commission both meet as necessary. It's not a monthly meeting like ours is. So you'd want to get the information on when that is being held. We have, okay. So there's a couple of, there's a couple of items of business we need to do under new business. One is, I'd like to ask the trustees I'd like to open the floor to discussion on the employee retirement package that we offer as part of our village employees, which include both highway and water department employees, because they get the same. I'd like to open the discussion about the potential for us to use the MERS system, which is, what's the M stand? Municipal Employment Retirement System, which is a state option, as opposed to just a private option or just a, I believe it's a pension. Is it a pension?
I believe it is.
Well, anyway, so that's
it certainly is yes, there are options in there.
So the specifics aren't important for tonight's purpose. What the purpose of tonight is this something that the trustees are in favor of exploring further? That's the only thing that I wanted to bring up for tonight's purposes, because we haven't really done the research on this to my knowledge, but I did want to bring it up because if some other trustee said, oh yeah, we went through all that very, specifically, and we already looked at, and we definitely decided we didn't want to do that. If that were the case, I would defer to the board. But if we haven't done a thorough review, or we haven't done one recently, I think there's no harm in taking a look to see if that might be a good option for our employees, because in some ways, if we participate in a municipal system that's available only to municipalities, sometimes that can be cheaper and give better benefits than just doing a private. So are you aware of any review of that has happened?
I have never heard of it.
Okay.
I think it's personally speaking, for our couple of employees, I think it's a wonderful option for them to have. It does not need to be costly to the municipality. It can be something they contribute to, and it's well managed.
Yeah, so what Mary is saying is that it's possible that whatever retirement system that we choose, we can also choose what our share is going to be.
Correct. We already have
So
something that we provide,
yeah,
but it's not really a retirement plan.
No.
We're just giving it to employees and trusting that it's.
Well, it has to be, the IRA has to be certified,
We
right?
ask, but we don't see what it goes to. We ask the employee to set up an IRA fund, but the village never looks at their account. We never have asked to for specifics.
Okay.
I happen to know, because we only have a few, that they're proper,
but we don't have a system of keeping a qualification letter on file.
No.
Okay. But sounds like there was the potential there to get more bang for our buck in a different system. So let's explore it. Why not?
Agreed.
Any objection to that? Or?
No, yeah, I mean, I think what we all find, I know in my personal life, you get fairly complacent in what you have, your insurance companies, everything else. I think it's a bit negative. It's not good practice to just keep things going without having discussions like this. If there's something out there better, the worst thing that can happen, we waste an hour talking about it and decide it's not any good. So I'm all for having a discussion about it.
Okay, great.
That never hurts to get more information.
So I think that historically, the way that we have best operated is if we have a presentation and then we can, as a board, sort of weigh the presentation and then make action on the presentation, as opposed to, well, one of us will take a look at it and we'll get back to the, I think that sometimes takes longer. I won't say whether it's
It always
effective
takes
or
longer.
less effective, but it,
It always
it takes longer. So if it's okay with the board, I'll try to find a person to do that research and report to us at the next meeting, if that's all right. As opposed to me or another board member doing.
It's fine by me.
That work?
I agree.
I
Okay.
may have a suggestion for that person. John, can you hear me?
Tara's doing something.
Can you hear
Tara,
me?
we can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Damn it.
because I turned mine on mute. Okay, I'm back. Yes.
Okay, I might have a suggestion for a person that could do that for us.
Oh, great.
Lucy Roy is a graduated senior from Bennington College who has an interest in environmental history and town histories, really. And she probably could put that together and do that for us before the next meeting.
Great.
But I'd have to talk to her.
Okay. Would you mind sending an email with you and her on that?
Yep,
And-
I can do that.
And, then we
And
can
she's
get-
also the one that organized the North Bennington, the Fund for North Bennington meeting on the 3rd. And
Okay.
there's another one at the end of this end of this month, if anyone wants to attend that. They just have to RSVP.
Super. Okay,
Yeah.
so just for public information, there is another Fund for North Bennington meeting at the end of the month. Please go
Yep.
to the fund website for more information.
There
Okay.
you go.
All right, let's see. And so, Lori, we were gonna open the bid proposals tonight, is that?
Correct.
Okay, so that's our next item of business is we have the Village of North Bennington has a hazard mitigation plan. It needs to be updated every several years. And we have gotten a grant to do that. And we usually contract so that it's done properly. With an organization to help us to do that. And the last time that we did it, the Bennington County Regional Commission was helped us with that. And this time we were fortunate to have 4 different entities respond to our request for proposals. So we have 4 different proposals. They've been forwarded to the board members by email, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at those responses. And according to the grant stipulations, we would accept the lowest responsible bid. So we would look at the bids and see how much they are. And then we would review just to make sure that all the board members feel that all the bids were responsible. And then we'd go with the lowest as long as we felt all bids were responsible. Is there any discussion on that point, or anybody that has a different opinion on how that should be done? Lori, do you does anybody feel like I did not explain that properly?
I don't think we're required to take the lowest responsible bid. I think we're required to take the bid that is reasonable and we think is most qualified. If they're all reasonable and qualified, we still won't have to take the lowest bid. Unless I'm mistaken, if there are stipulations with the way this is presented, but typically we can, I mean, part of the bid process is choosing who you think is most qualified.
I
Not-
think
it's
normally
not-
if the
it's not only
village,
the lowest
if the
bid.
village bids out, I think that's true. We can accept the bid that we want or that we feel is qualified,
Mhm.
not the lowest qualified. But it's my understanding that it's not because the village is doing it, it's because we received a grant and the grant required that we do that.
Okay, no, thank you for clarifying that. That's where I was a little fuzzy. So, yep, that makes sense. Thank you.
So normally we would have that option, but I think in this case, if we want them to pay
Sure. No, that
the
makes-
80% or
complete
whatever,
sense.
then I
Yeah,
think we
yeah.
gotta do it that way. Okay. Lori stepped off for a second, I think, here. I want to wait till. Oh,
I'm always here.
okay.
Yeah, I'm always here. I might just not have the camera on.
Okay, yeah, no, you don't have to have the camera on. That's totally fine. I just want to make sure that you were with us while we did this. But so shall I just go through the proposals that have been sent, or did you want to do it in a certain way, Lori?
No, I think that's fine. Just do it just open them in whatever order you want, and as long as they're all comparable, you know.
Yep, so
look at the amounts.
Yep, so there's a lot of, there are quite a few documents if people want. I believe I shared a Google Drive folder with all of the proposals in it, but
You did. I'm just trying to find it as usual, but I recall.
I'll just go through from what I have at the top of the list and go down. So, hold on just a sec. I'm sorry, folks. Just give me a couple seconds here.
There it is.
I had some of them open, but not the folder. So let me just finish. Okay,
Email of 8/4,
here it is.
August 4th. Thank you.
So the first one. So the first one on the list is from BCRC. They've submitted the letter as the proposal. The letter is from, I won't read the whole letter. It's 11 pages long. But it is signed by Michael Batcher. And I think that one of the primary folks that would be working with us on the plan would be Allison Stroll, who has worked with us previously on this plan. It's a fair, I think it's a pretty detailed proposal on page, let's see, 4. There's a cost and time frame layout, table 1. It shows the steps 1 through 15 in terms of planning, initial meetings, interviews, collating data, vulnerability assessment, draft plan, comments, review, and adoption. And they have number of hours and staff costs, which come to a total of $9,956.68. And so they would, in the opening paragraph, say that they wouldn't exceed $10,000 for this completed plan. Okay, and I'll go to the next one, which is SEAM Solutions, SEAM Solutions, Stephanie Magnan of Barry, Vermont. So their proposal was not one document, it was actually attached, but she introduces herself. says that she has a degree in civil engineering and more than 25 years of experience within state government at Vermont Agency of Transportation, with bridge and culvert design, building and utilizing GIS. Is it helpful for me to do this, or have the trustees already done all this review and it's just repetitive, or should I keep going with this?
I think it's definitely helpful, especially.
Okay, okay. Okay. During Irene, Ms. Magnan tracked over $20 million of SFHWA relief money that was being awarded to contractors around the state, and assisted in the state's efforts to successfully advocate for the initial denial of federal highway money, and was eventually granted. So she helped to oversee FEMA public assistance programs in Vermont emergency management. Okay, so she did for 5 years. I worked for Vermont emergency management in updating the state hazard mitigation plan along with state emergency operations plan, continuity of operations, community points of distribution, and developed VTran's own emergency operations plan. So certainly qualified there. And so her, oh, that's not it. I just need to go to her proposal. See, okay, thank you. So it's, her proposal is also 11 pages long. Interesting. And it's the project cost. Is that what you think is the total?
That's the total, and I think what's a little confusing is that, so there are also potential extra costs that aren't factored in for travel.
All right, so she has a total project cost listed at $7,200. She has additional potential cost of travel at $140 per round trip, and additional potential cost of data storage and security at $200. And let's just take a look at her steps. Similar to BCRC's plan, she lays it out, her tables out in steps of assembling the planning team, meeting with the consultant to review the planning process and confirm outreach strategy. And she has a checklist of consultant responsibilities as well as our responsibilities. I think that's helpful to have that checklist there. It says that she would spend 4 hours in that stage at a rate of $75 per hour, total cost of $300. Then step 2 would be establish the plan with deliverables, timelines for completion, and confirm roles and responsibilities. That would be another $300 for same time frame. Step 3 is reviewing the information, and that is 15 hours at $100 an hour, total of $1,500. And then the reviewing the data in a public meeting, step 4. The meetings, I'm assuming they take time for the, she comes down and does the meeting with us. So that's a 6-hour consult at a rate of $75 an hour for $50. Complete the vulnerability assessment, step 5. 15 hours at a rate of $100 an hour. Identifying mitigation strategies. Okay. And she actually, I'm just seeing this, but in each step, she has an anticipated completion date as well, assuming a start date of September 1st. Step 7 is review mitigation strategies. Step in the public meeting. Step 8 is submit the plan to VM and revise. Step 9, submit to FEMA and adoption of the plan. I'd just like to go back to, and I could actually, do you think it's all right if I share my screen on this? All right, let's, is that the public at this point? Yeah, okay, so I'll share my screen. I'm just going back to the BCRC proposal, see how it's different. It's actually, it's quite, I'm looking at the breakdown, it's very similar. I mean, their hourly might be slightly different, but pretty. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So that would be, I think that what the SEAM proposal is assuming that a lot of this can be done remotely, except for the public meetings. And so the additional potential cost of travel is treated as an extra here. Yeah.
We had mentioned that the second one, the same proposal, there are things that the village has to do.
Yes.
So is that the same thing under the BCRC proposal? Or is it possible that under the second proposal, there is work that a village employee would have to do that the village employee wouldn't have to do under the first, the BCRC option?
Well, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that you're right that I think there is a little bit of difference between, and I guess we could contact the
What did
individuals,
the second
but
option, what did it say that the village, and you mentioned something that there's a document that with the village responsibilities.
so it's the shared document that I'm showing
Yes,
here.
I'm looking at this now.
So as you go down, like for instance, in step, she's saying as the consultant, she will assist in identifying planning team members. And then, but the town of North Bennington needs to send her a list of potential planning team members. And then identify the need for focus teams. She's assisting identifying the focus teams. So she's telling us who we need to identify, but we're actually going to need to be providing the names because we're the ones that know who's who. So and
we have to have a note taker, it looks like.
In scheduling the meetings, assist in discussion for determining optional responsibilities. Well, let's go to a public meeting, see if there's a difference. Okay, so during a public meeting. Number one. assign note taker, records manager, and post documents, including meeting minutes, to the town's website. Oh, participate in a kickoff meeting. So there would be a kickoff meeting.
But this may be boring, somebody would have to take, writing all this stuff down.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's obviously a good cost.
Right,
Yeah.
to us.
Yes.
But I don't know, I mean. Let's see.
John, are these the two proposals?
There's 4 proposals, so that's 2. And then this is the third, Katmai, Katmai, preparedness solutions. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, right? So the cover page says Town of Bennington.
Yeah.
I think they may have not totally edited everything here, but this is Dan Nelson from Soldotna, Arkansas.
Yeah, okay, no.
That's a no from Trustee Patterson.
I mean, you know, we gotta
Gotta
work.
move along here, yeah. It just, yeah, I think it seems unrealistic probably that we'd be able to have the kind of one-on-one contact that we'd be looking for this.
Yeah.
And he has a total project cost of $8,400.
What I'm confused with, you know, I bring up this Google document, you've got the BCRC, you got SEAM, Katmai, then you've got documents from SEAM,
Hold on.
and where's the other?
I just want, let's just take care of this one because I think it does say in Katmai, in order to stay within budget and emphasize efficiency, no travel or on-site work has been proposed. And I think that we probably, at least I'm not in favor of that proposal. Is that?
Well, especially to take money money just to come here once and say it'll be $1,500.
So I think that rules it out for me, but.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move, so Katmai is out. But let me find the other one here.
Yes, I do.
I think it's PSG, Process Safety and Reliability Group out of Houston, Texas.
Experience methodology proposal. This should be it, right? Again, it's saying Town of Bennington, but
And no.
There's a $10,000 cost.
okay, yeah. Okay, so we can eliminate that because we're not going to take the most expensive, but be totally virtual. So that's a no. So it really is between.
Stephanie Magnan
Yeah,
and BCRC.
which is SEAM Solutions and BCRC. Any thoughts?
I think with the caveat within her bid regarding travel, I think you're looking at apples and oranges in terms of cost, and I would be in favor of the BCRC bid. And I make that motion.
Make the motion to accept BCRC's bid.
Yes.
Well, we can, it actually most times it is. Well, okay. The motion's been made and that's trustees' prerogative. So is there a second to that motion?
We have further discussion.
Yeah, we can have, well, no. According to the rules, you can say that you don't support the motion at this time and we can put it aside for a second and then you could reintroduce it. But we shouldn't have, we can discuss his motion, but we can't discuss other stuff.
I made the motion prematurely. I withdraw my motion
I'm sorry.
to accept the BCRC bid so that
What
we
it-
can have further discussion about the bids.
All right, I'm sorry to be a stickler about that.
No,
Mark,
no, no, that's it.
go ahead, Mark.
We have rules for a reason. I actually defer to Mary.
Oh,
I
sorry.
have a question, if you don't mind, kind of being in the public, not a voting person here.
Can folks hear Mary? Here, let me just get the microphone over there.
All right, just my thought for the trustees is that we have done bids before that the grant required the lowest bid. However, if we had chosen something other than the lowest bid, they were only gonna do the 80% of the lowest bid. I don't really know what this grant is, so it is possible, to Mark's point, that you're not required to take just what is on paper, the lowest bid. But the grant, there may be something in the grant document, which I have not read to the nth degree, that says it will only reimburse its portion of that lowest one.
So I think where
That's
we
all
had,
I wanted to comment.
I think where we had footing on that is this 7,200 is not a hard bid. And
Right.
As the BCRC did, they say it will not exceed 10,000, does not have a cap. In my feeling, that said, we can't have it at 7,200 because if it comes down here. It's adding, she's got a $200 fee for data security. Not to mention, you're gonna be paying village employees to be handling some of the things that we know through past experience with BCRC, they would be handling.
Exactly.
I think the only bid that really stands out, so I wasn't disagreeing with the motion, it was just I think we need to clarify the reasons why we're taking it first. I don't see this seen as being a complete proposal because there's no cap and there's no hard figure. With the BCRC, I feel it's more complete bid.
Agreed.
I can get behind that thought too.
So I will again make the motion to accept the BCRC bid for the mitigation, hazard mitigation plan, not to exceed $10,000.
And I will now second that.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion?
Negative.
Like a second to pull up that grant document if it's okay. Just to, is it all right with folks if I just take a minute here?
Sure.
Okay, so I actually, in the document that we, in our RFP that we approved and sent out, it does not specify that we must select the lowest cost. There's an evaluation that's required, and the selection of the consultant has to be based on the proposal, including documented experience in mitigation planning, technical staff capability to assess risks based on identified hazards, experience working with local, state, and or federal government, ability to recommend viable mitigation actions, references of past work in mitigation planning, cost, and timeliness. And that we also encourage responses from disadvantaged, women-owned, minority-owned, and small local firms.
Small and local firms.
My, in that we have in this situation, two well-qualified candidates, and it's hard for me to, look at the two proposals and say that one is, seriously lacking in any area. I think to me, it really just comes down to that we have two well-qualified candidates, and one is local and distance is not a factor, and there may be a cost appreciation there, or because they've worked locally with these plans for a long time, so there may be a savings there, I think. But I guess this is a really tough decision for me, just because I think we put it out there and encourage folks to apply, and it sounds like we got a well-qualified person from Barry to apply, and I really appreciate that application, but I guess it does come down to the fact that we may have a little more access to the BCRC. So
I agree with that. So she had came in with a cap similar to what I think then we have a real problem, because right, I agree, they're both very well qualified.
Yeah.
It's hard to go with any kind of gray area. So, unfortunately.
okay, so is there any further discussion on the motion?
John, I would just like to make the point that, well, it's not a difficult decision for me. We were required to do the RFP. It isn't that we necessarily thought that was, I mean, we know who's done this for us. I have no negative comments regarding the other proposal, the other Vermont proposal, but it just seems obvious to me that we go with the people that already know 90% of the application process, and there's no clear evidence that will cost us more.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I will vote in favor as well. Thank you for seeing that through, everybody. It probably took a little longer, but I appreciate your time. Okay, so we do need to discuss a couple matters in executive session. So are we going to take action when we return from executive session? It's the question for our friends at Cat TV.
I'm not sure if we're taking action.
Don't know what's on the agenda, so it's hard to know, but if it
So-
involves what we spoke about,
We need,
yesterday.
we need to discuss two things, a legal matter, and we also need to discuss an employment matter. If that helps folks.
So none of those will take action on,
Okay,
I don't think, privately,
okay. Yeah, right, that's true, because even
right?
if we take action on the employment matter, it's not going to be to make a determination, it'll be to make an offer. So it's not going, yeah. Okay. So at this time, we're going to indicate that this meeting, when we come out of executive session, there will be no action taken, but we will continue the meeting to August 24th at 7 p.m. That's Tuesday, August 24th at 7 p.m. So I don't think there's any reason for Cat TV to need to, stick around to come on to hear us say that. We'll take no other action other than that. And for all those that wish to attend the meeting on the 24th, I'm giving you notice now that of the date and time.
So moved.
Tuesday, August 24th, 7 p.m.
And will that be in person and Zoom optional?
That will be a hybrid of both in person here at the depot as well as we'll do a Zoom option like we have tonight.